So before we get into this week's breakdown, I just want to remind you guys of this screen right here. Warning, please buy comics at your own risk. And I do that for a reason. I got a few comments last week. While I don't mind all the comments you guys put down there, I really appreciate it. And matter of fact, we're going to do something a little bit different this week and going forward. Stay tuned. I had a couple of comments saying that I only give thumbs up to books that I want to own. Of course that's the case. Those are the books that I want to own. But don't forget, 9 out of 10 times I'm saying I want to own all these books that appear on these breakdowns. But to me, some of the prices are a little bit insane, especially when we get into 9.8s, 9.6s, stuff like that. I do believe that all moderns should be bought at 9.8s because you just do think there's so many copies out there, most of them, a lot of them copper age as well, but some of them have gotten outrageously priced that I can't justify paying these high prices for 9.8s, and in that case, I'd rather own the book raw. With that said, guys, remember, this is an opinion video. It doesn't mean I don't want to own the book. I'd love to own all these books, okay? So keep it clean in the comments. What is shaking, YouTube? I am your host, Lawrence, over at Mighty Comics and Collectibles, and like always, welcome back to another Hot 10 Comics of the Week breakdown. If you guys are not familiar with what I do in this video, I take the 10 hottest comics in the world according to the Key Collector app, and I break them down for you, letting you know which books I'm buying at which prices and which books I'm staying away from. But before we get started in the video, like always, I remind you guys, if you're not a current sub of the channel, do yourself a favor, hit that sub button, smash the like button, and one other thing this week, and from now on, every week I do a best buy of the week. I want to hear from you down in the comments. Do you agree with my best buy of the week, or would you rather have another book on the list? And I'd love to hear what that book is and what's the price you're willing to pay for it. With that said, let's get into this week's breakdown. Starting off the list at number 10 this week is a copy of Venom Lethal Protector #1 and the first solo series featuring Venom. And last week we had a CGC 9.8 selling for only $200, but up an insane 83% over the average. Man, that is a monster jump. I have seen this book in a 9.8 on Elite Comics 11 live sales for around $100, $120. That's where I'm a buyer of this book in a 9.8. I think $200, while not a lot of money, there's just way too many copies of this book out there, especially raw. So to me, $100, $125 in a 9.8, or buy yourself a raw copy at any LCS out there. There are plenty to be had. At the 9 spot this week is one of my favorite Bronze Age keys. It is a copy of Amazing Spider-Man #194 and the first appearance of the Black Cat, Felicia Hardy. And last week we had a CGC 9.2 selling for $425, up 8% over the average. Then we had a CGC 8.0 sale for only $250, up 3% over the average. And this one is a little bit tricky. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I love this book. You guys know that. To me, I definitely want to own this book and the highest grade that I can get it. But an 8.0 for $250, I don't think that's bad, but I still think you can get a bunch of raw copies out there for cheap and high grade. So to me, you just want to buy the book and the grade you want to keep in your collection for the next 20 years. But I love this book, and to me, it's always a buy. Coming in at number 8 this week is a copy of G.I. Joe Real American Hero #1 and some 1980s goodness. This is the first appearance of Team G.I. Joe in comics. And last week we had a CGC 9.8 newsstand copy selling for $1,389, up 6% over the average. Then we had a CGC 9.0 sale, another newsstand issue, for only $199, up 10% over the average. Now, I'm not a newsstand collector, you guys know that, but if you are, to each his own. I would say a 9.0 or a 9.2 may be right up your alley for around $200. To me, I think 9.8 newsstand is a little bit too much that I want to spend on this book. If you want to buy a direct 9.8 for around $500, I'm all for it. Anything over that, it's just too much money to spend on the first appearance of G.I. Joe in comics. Back on the list at number 7 this week is a copy of Uncanny X-Men #266 and the second appearance of Gambit. This is also the first cover appearance of Gambit. And last week we had a CGC 9.6 selling for $260, up 10% over the average. Then we had a CGC 9.2 sale for $185, up 9% over the average. I've said this, guys, all the time. I'd love to own this book in a 9.8, and I think anything over $500 is too much. $500 and under in a 9.8, I'm a buyer. With that said, we just see a 9.2 copy, a CGC graded book for $185. I'm pretty sure you can get a 9.2 raw copy for well under that, and that's what I'm a buyer of. That's why I titled this video, Are You Buying the Grade or Are You Buying the Comic? I'd love to hear your comments down below. Back on the list after a long hiatus at number 6 this week is a copy of Silver Surfer number 3 and the first appearance of Mephisto. The rumors out there right now, he's going to appear in the new Ironheart series. I never know if this is true or not, but hopefully soon we're finally going to get Mephisto in the MCU. And last week we had a CGC 7.5 selling for $598, up 10% over that average. Then we had a CGC 5.5 sale, a mid-grade copy of this book selling for only $347, up 11% over the average. To me, I think a 5.5 for around $300, $350 is not a bad deal considering this is a Silver Age key and a great villain to boot. If you want to spend $500 and change on a 7.5, I'm still okay with it because it's a super high grade of a book that's nearly 60 years old. To me, that's why I'm a buyer of this book, but especially if you can get it for a deal. Coming in at number 5 is another book just like Wolverine 1 and New Mutants 98 that we cannot get rid of on this list. It is a copy of Incredible Hulk number 340 and this classic cover by Todd McFarlane. And last week we had a CGC 9.6 selling for $362, but only up 3% over the average. Then we had a CGC 9.2 sale for $228, up another 10% over the average. You guys know how I feel about this book. If you want to buy a 9.6 and you get a deal on it, maybe you could press it out, get it to a 9.8, I'm all for it. But why are we spending over $200 on a 9.2 graded copy? You can get a same grade 9.2 for under $150. You guys know I've done it. I've talked about it before. 9.2 newsstand for $150 off of one of Elite Comics 11 live sales. With that said, I'm not a buyer of this book at these prices, but if you can get a deal on a raw copy, I'll be all for it. Fabulous cover and classic key I want to add to any collection.
That's how Dad did it. That's how America does it. And it's worked out pretty well so far.
Sliding down the list to number 4 this week is a copy of Venom number 3 and the first appearance of Null, creator of the alien symbiote race. And last week we had a CGC 9.8 selling for $282, up 31% over the average. When this book first appeared on the list, we were selling for over $330, down to $300, now down to $292. Where is it going to end? With that said, I tell you, I want to own this book at a 9.8 for around $200, and I'm sticking to it. Plus, Venom 3 has already come out, and I only hear that Null has a small part in that film, and I heard some really bad rumors out there, and I hope this isn't true, that the Sinister Six is coming to the Sony universe to face Null. To me, that makes absolutely no sense. Sony, you kill every movie that you touch. Staying away from this one until it gets to $200. Back on the list at number 3 is a super hot book and one of my faves. It is a copy of Marvel Superhero Secret Wars number 8 and the origin of the black symbiote costume. And last week we had a CGC 9.8 selling for $622, up 24% over the average. Then we had a CGC 9.2 sale for $311, up a crazy 64% over the average for a 9.2. That to me makes no sense. You could see this book raw all the time at your LCS, at local shows for around $150 and around the same grade raw. That's what I'm buying. I don't want to spend $600 in a 9.8. I told you, just like the other 9.8s for copper books, 500 or less, that's what I'm sticking to. I'm shocked to see this book at number 2 this week. It is a copy of Amazing Spider-Man number 5 and the first battle between Dr. Doom and Spider-Man. And last week we had a CGC 6.5 selling for a whopping $2,000, up 5% over the average. Then we had a CGC 2.5 sale, but only for $629, up a measly 1% over the average. I'm shocked to see this book on this list. You guys know the definitive Dr. Doom book is FF5, his first appearance, but this is my second one that I want to own relating to Dr. Doom. But I don't want to spend $600 on 2.5. I think my copy is around a 2.0 I paid for years ago, under $500. If you can find a deal on this book, I'm all for it. Other than that, I don't want to spend $2,000 on a 6.5. I don't see the value in that. I'd rather take the $2,000 and get a better key, put it towards the first appearance of Dr. Doom. I'd rather own that book. So to me, at these prices, I'm staying away. And finally, at the top spot, a new number 1 this week and another Copper Age book. It is a copy of Amazing Spider-Man number 300 and the first full appearance of Venom. This is also an iconic cover by the Todd Father. And last week, we had a CGC 9.8 selling for $3,142, up 7% over the average. Then we had a CGC 9.2 sale all the way up to $595, up 12% over the average. I've said this before here on the channel. You guys guys know I love this character and I love this book, but it is super common, right? There are a million copies out there, not literally, a ton already graded by CGC and a ton still out there raw. Yes, this book is an absolute must-own for any Spidey fan, for any Venom fan, or any comic book fan, but I don't want to spend $3,000 on a 9.8. I consistently see this book anywhere from $2,500 to $2,800 on Instagram consignment pages. So that's right now what I'm really willing to spend. But I don't feel you have to own this book in a 9.8. Hell, I own a 9.2. So I would say go get yourself a raw copy, a 9.2, 9.4. But if you do want to own a graded one, I suggest a 9.2, 9.4 signed by Todd McFarlane. Gives you a little bit more narrowing down because this book is so common out there in the market. With that said, I hope you guys enjoyed another list. You guys know I love you guys, right? Don't forget to comment down below what you think your best buy should be, if it's different from mine. Other than that, it is now time for my best buy of the week. And this is a toss-up between Silver Surfer number 3 or Amazing Spider-Man number 194. It really depends if you're a Spidey fan, if you're a Silver Age fan, a Bronze fan, whichever you'd rather own. They're roughly around the same price. For me, I'm going with the Spidey book, ASM number 194. To me, I love the Black Cat, one of my favorite villains slash heroines. So to me, that's the book I'm picking. Hope you guys enjoyed another video. This is Lawrence over at Mighty Comics Collectibles saying thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you guys soon.